So our main case study for extreme weather in the UK is the York floods in 2015. And the first thing that you need to know is why York flooded in 2015. And it comes down to two reasons. First of all, why it rained a lot. And second of all, what happened to the rainwater to get it into the River Ouse and to York really quickly. Okay, so to deal with why it rained a lot, first of all, it all comes down to the jet stream. Now, the jet stream is just a really fast river, basically, of air. And when it's over the UK, it brings with it lots of storms. So in winter 2015, the jet stream spent months over the north of the UK, and it brought with it storm after storm after storm. Okay, now the proper name for storms, they're called depressions. And examples of the storms, we've got Desmond, we've got Eva, and we've got Frank. Okay, so that's the first reason why we York flooded. Okay, and you can see from this animation, the red circled area, that's where the River Ouse drainage basin is. And you can see all those bright colours, that is rain. And you can see for a long, long period of time, consistently, rain fell in the River Ouse's drainage basin. Okay. Now, the reason this is important is because it saturated the River Ouse's drainage basin. Now, all a drainage basin is, it's an area of land that the river drains. So all of the water that falls anywhere in this area will run down into the River Ouse. So the more water that falls, the more likely the river is to flood. Now, because there was so much rainfall in winter 2015, that meant that the drainage basin, the land, was completely full of water. It was saturated. It couldn't take any more water, which means that any more rainfall that fell, it had to stay on the surface. Now, when it flows across the surface, this is called surface runoff, it flows really, really quickly, which means it gets to the river quickly, which means that your river rises really quickly. Now, the main reason I've said already was because of saturation. Yeah, the water couldn't sink into the ground, so it flowed really quickly across the surface. However, there are other reasons why the water got into the river really quickly. There are some areas of the River Ouse's drainage basin that is really steep land, and if the land is steep, the water doesn't have time to sink in, so it flows across the surface and into the rivers. There are also lots of smaller feeder rivers called tributaries that run into the River Ouse. It has lots of tributaries, and so the water gets into the River Ouse and gets into York really quickly by just flowing through the tributaries. If the surface is impermeable, which means that water can't sink into it, that also means that you'll end up with surface runoff, and it's another reason why water will get into the River Ouse quickly. So it's all about the water, huge amounts of rainfall, and that water through surface runoff getting into the River Ouse and York really quickly. That's what made the river very likely to flood.